What if the screen you're staring at right now is just, well, about to disappear entirely?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like pure science fiction at first.
Right. But seriously, think about it. Look at your phone or, your laptop or your tablet. What if the future of doing business isn't about figuring out how to get your customers to look at a device, but actually stepping inside the experience with them?
It's a wild thought. But you are identifying the exact, existential crisis that is facing every major brand right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the digital world and the physical world are colliding. And
Oh, yeah.
they're colliding at a terrifying velocity, honestly.
Yeah.
The businesses that actually survive the next 10 years are the ones that stop treating the physical and the digital as, two separate competing realms.
They're merging.
Exactly. They are merging into one continuous reality.
Okay, let's unpack this because in this deep dive, we are pulling apart the blueprint for that exact future.
And it's a very detailed blueprint.
It really is. We are exploring the concepts laid out by Philip Kotler, Herman Kartajaya, and Iwan Setyuan in their honestly groundbreaking work, Marketing 6.0. The future is immersive.
Yeah, it's a fascinating read.
So specifically, we are looking at the foundational shift from multi to omni to meta. You are going to learn how marketing has evolved from simply pushing products on a shelf to creating fully immersive digital realities.
Right. Phygital. Physical and digital.
Exactly, because the old playbook of just, running some targeted online ads or relying on physical foot traffic, it's obsolete. The winners of the next decade will be the ones who master meta marketing.
It is a massive recalibration of how we understand consumer behavior.
Yeah.
And to truly grasp where this whole meta era is taking us, we can't just, look at the technology in isolation. We have to trace the evolutionary lineage.
Where we came from.
Right, the authors map this out meticulously. You cannot build a successful, immersive future if you don't understand the sequence of psychological and societal shifts that forced us here.
Let's do that flyby then. The ancestry of marketing. I know you, our listener, are probably well-versed in the basics, so we can breeze through the early days.
Keep it quick.
Right. So marketing 1.0 is just the product-driven era, mass production, like, here's a reliable car, buy it. The company held all the cards.
They dictated everything.
Yeah. Then, as market saturated, we hit marketing 2.0, the customer-oriented era. That's when we got segmentation, targeting, figuring out that a 20-something wants a different car than a family of 5.
Yeah, but I'd add that while 2.0 was a step forward, it still viewed the consumer through a really highly reductionist lens.
Like just a number on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. You were a demographic, you were just a wallet attached to a set of predictable behaviors. The true paradigm shift happened with Marketing 3.0, which the authors define as the human-centric or sustainability era.
This is where brands realize consumers actually have a pulse, right?
Basically, yeah.
Like, they have anxieties, core values, a desire for societal impact.
Far more than just realizing they have a pulse. I mean, Marketing 3.0 was a forced adaptation to a massive societal reckoning.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, consumers gained access to global information, right, with the internet.
Yeah.
And they started demanding that corporations actually take responsibility for their footprints. It was no longer enough to just have a good product. Your corporate mechanics had to align with things like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Wow, so a total shift in accountability. The text actually points to Procter & Gamble as a prime example here.
They really are the gold standard for that transition.
Yeah, they're one of the biggest advertisers on the planet, and they stopped just pitching, the functional benefits of razors and diapers. They started leveraging their massive share of voice to advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah.
Like those huge campaigns for Gillette and Always.
And notice the mechanics of how they did that.
What do you mean?
Well, it wasn't just a philanthropic donation quietly made in the background. It was embedding human values into the core narrative of the brand itself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another crucial example the authors highlight is Google's Next Billion Users program. Google understood that their next wave of growth wasn't going to come from Silicon Valley. It was going to come from underserved markets.
Right, developing nations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can't just drop a standard search engine into a demographic with high illiteracy rates and expect mass adoption.
So what did they do? Because that's a massive barrier to entry. I mean, if you can't read the screen, how do you search?
They engineered solutions like Google Lens.
Oh, right.
Yeah. They use optical character recognition and machine learning on edge devices, meaning it works even with really low bandwidth. So the camera can literally read physical text aloud to the user.
That is incredible.
That is the essence of 3.0.
Yeah.
You are using your core technological competency to solve a fundamental human problem, which then, organically opens a new market.
Okay, so 3.0 gives marketing a conscience. But then the technology itself undergoes this radical mutation. We hit marketing 4.0, the digital transition.
The terminology here is incredibly deliberate, by the way.
How so?
Marketing 4.0 didn't just happen in a vacuum. It was a direct reaction to Industry 4.0.
Wait, I remember hearing about that. That was a manufacturing thing, right?
Yes. Back in 2011, the German government introduced this high-level strategy to digitize manufacturing. So the Internet of Things, cloud computing, cyber-physical systems.
From factories.
Exactly. And as the supply chain and manufacturing floors became deeply digitized, the marketing arm had to follow suit. This era was all about the delicate dance of pairing traditional offline marketing with the explosive new world of digital content and social media.
Which, became a matter of absolute survival during the pandemic. If you didn't have a digital transition strategy in 2020, you basically ceased to exist.
100%.
But we didn't stay in 4.0 for very long. The cycle time is shrinking. We slammed right into marketing 5.0, which is AI-driven marketing.
Which, following the exact same pattern, mirrors Society 5.0. That was a vision articulated by the Japanese government around 2016.
Oh, so again, a governmental tech vision driving marketing evolution.
Yes. The explicit goal of Society 5.0 was to leverage advanced tech, particularly artificial intelligence, not just for industrial efficiency, but to balance economic advancement with the resolution of social problems.
Okay.
So in the marketing context, 5.0 is where AI moved from being a theoretical buzzword in the IT department to becoming the core engine of the marketing suite. It is the era of utilizing algorithms to process unimaginably large data sets.
To achieve what? Exactly.
To achieve true one-to-one personalization at scale.
The source material gives a really fascinating example of this with PepsiCo. And this is where I want to dig into the how. Because people hear AI marketing and they just think of, algorithms serving you a targeted ad for shoes you just searched for.
Right, creepy tracking ads.
Yeah. But Pepsi used AI for actual product development. They used it to invent snacks.
The mechanics of that PepsiCo initiative are brilliant because they highlight the difference between structured and unstructured data.
Break that down for me.
Well, traditional marketing research relies on structured data. Surveys, sales figures, highly organized spreadsheets.
Clean data.
Exactly. But Pepsi unleashed natural language processing algorithms on unstructured data. We are talking about millions of scattered social media posts, raw recipe commentaries, food blogs, Reddit threads.
So the AI is essentially reading the internet's diary about what it's craving.
In a sense, yeah. The AI models parsed that text to map flavor affinities that human researchers could literally never spot at that scale. It looked for anomalies and rising vectors.
Give me an example of a rising vector.
Okay, so if people were complaining that a certain type of chip was too salty, but in the exact same paragraph mentioning they love the crunch of seaweed, the AI connects those dots. It identifies white spaces in the market.
Wow.
Yeah, this direct algorithmic analysis led to the creation of entire new product lines, like off-the-eaten-path snacks and Propel sports drinks.
So the algorithm literally dictates the supply chain. It tells the food scientists, hey, make a jalapeno lime seaweed hybrid because 1 million people subconsciously want it but haven't said it aloud yet.
And consider the acceleration since this book's initial framework was laid down. We now have generative AI, massive interactive language models like ChatGPT.
It's moving so fast.
It is. It's no longer just AI analyzing data in the background. It's AI collaborating in real time with the marketer, writing the copy, generating the A/B test imagery, predicting the consumer's emotional response before a single dollar is spent on ad placement.
Okay, so synthesizing this evolutionary timeline, I want to try an analogy here to see if it holds up.
Go for it.
Let's look at this like the evolution of a relationship. Marketing 1.0 is just walking up to a stranger on the street and handing them your resume. Like, I am a brand, I make things, buy them.
Very romantic.
Right. Marketing 2.0 was sitting down on a first date and actually asking a few questions. Oh, you're a 25-year-old male. I'll use smaller words and talk about sports.
Yeah.
Just an example. Marketing 3.0 was when the relationship got deep. Sharing core values, making sure you align morally, caring about the community together.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Then Marketing 4.0 and 5.0 were when you started using shared apps, tracking locations, and predicting perfectly when your partner wants a text versus a phone call based on their historical data.
A little intrusive, but accurate.
And Marketing 6.0, which we are building toward today, is basically moving in together and sharing a single, continuous reality.
I'll accept that analogy with one critical caveat.
What's that?
In your relationship timeline, you cannot successfully move in with someone Marketing 6.0 if you completely fumbled the deep, values-based conversations of 3.0.
Oh, that is such a good point.
This is the most vital practical takeaway for you, the listener, regarding this ancestry. Evolution is cumulative. You cannot skip steps.
So you can't just buy a VR headset and call yourself a cutting-edge brand.
Exactly the opposite. If you try to build a 6.0 immersive meta-marketing experience, but your brand lacks that 3.0 human-centric soul, your immersive world will feel like a hollow corporate trap.
People will see right through it.
Instantly. Consumers will reject it instantly. Similarly, if you haven't mastered the 5.0 data architecture, if you don't actually know how to capture and deploy real-time analytics, your 6.0 spatial environments will be clunky, generic, and frustrating.
Makes total sense.
Every business listening needs to audit their current evolutionary stage. If you are stuck at 2.0, fixing your demographic segmentation, you have foundational work to do before you worry about the metaverse.
That is a crucial reality check. You have to pour the concrete before you frame the house.
Perfect way to put it.
Let's pivot to the second major concept from the text, which is a structural shift in how businesses actually route customers to a purchase. The evolution of the funnel. We really need to talk about the leap from multi-channel to omni-channel marketing.
Yes, the channels.
Because before we can even discuss the meta era, we have to understand the massive friction that currently exists in most business models.
And the friction you're talking about really stems from a historical hangover. To understand why companies struggle with channel integration, we have to look at the power dynamics of the pre-internet era. Economists refer to it as information asymmetry.
Meaning one side knows everything and the other side is flying blind.
Precisely. Brands held absolute monopolistic power over information. They dictated what the consumer knew, when they knew it, and how they could acquire the product.
You saw a television commercial, you went to the authorized physical retailer, and you paid the sticker price.
Exactly. You couldn't pull a device out of your pocket to check if a store 3 states over had it for 20% less.
But the internet shattered that asymmetry permanently. The power violently shifted to the consumer.
It was a total inversion of control. Consumers suddenly had infinite media choices, infinite comparison tools, and the ability to dictate their own purchasing journey.
And brands panicked.
They really did. They realized that because the consumer could be anywhere online, the brand had to be everywhere. And this frantic land grab for digital presence birthed multi-channel marketing.
Let's define multi-channel rigorously because it's a term that gets thrown around boardrooms constantly, and people use multi-channel and omni-channel interchangeably all the time.
Which is a huge mistake.
The text makes it explicitly clear they are very different beasts.
They are structurally opposed in their architecture. Multi-channel is a strategy of presence, but it operates in silos.
Silos, okay.
A company might have a physical storefront, a dedicated e-commerce website, a mobile app, and a robust social media presence. But in a true multi-channel setup, each of those channels operates completely independently.
Oh, I see.
They have separate budgets, separate marketing teams, separate inventory databases, and often entirely different messaging.
So, to use an analogy, multi-channel is like the old school healthcare system.
Let's hear it.
You go to your primary care doctor, and they have a paper chart. Then you go to a specialist across town, and you have to fill out all the paperwork again because their system doesn't talk to your primary doctor's system. Ugh, worst. Then you go to the ER, and you have to explain your entire medical history a third time from scratch. The hospital system has multiple channels of care, but they are totally disconnected. The burden of continuity is entirely on the patient.
That is a phenomenal structural analogy. The brand assumes that a digital customer and a physical customer are two different biological species taking entirely separate paths.
Which is obviously false.
Right. The book uses a great example of a beverage company to illustrate this siloed thinking.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah. The marketing department runs daytime television ads focused on the health benefits and nutritional value of their drink. And they're specifically targeting an older demographic watching broadcast TV.
Makes sense.
But meanwhile, the digital marketing team is running these hyperkinetic, influencer-driven Instagram campaigns focusing on the bold flavors and lifestyle aesthetics for Gen Z.
And those two ships pass in the night. The TV watcher never sees the Instagram story, and the teenager never sees the broadcast commercial.
Which is fine for a while until consumer behavior evolved again. The reality is that modern consumers do not operate in neat little silos anymore.
They jump around.
Exactly. A 2022 Gartner CMO survey in North America and Europe revealed a really fascinating split. 56% of marketing budgets were allocated to digital channels, while 44% remained offline.
Which kills the narrative that physical retail is entirely dead. 44% is a massive chunk of change.
It proves that the digital revolution didn't assassinate the physical world, it layered on top of it. Customers are now ricocheting between online and offline touchpoints for a single purchase.
Give me an example of that ricochet.
Well, they might sing an ad on TikTok, go to a physical store to look at the product, and then buy it on a mobile app later that night. When a multi-channel system encounters this ricocheting consumer, the system breaks down. The customer gets frustrated because the mobile app doesn't know what they looked at in the store. To fix this broken patient record system, as your analogy goes, marketing had to evolve into omnichannel.
Omnichannel is the centralized nervous system. It's the ER doctor pulling up a screen and already knowing exactly what your specialist prescribed yesterday.
It is the complete integration of back-end data and front-end experience. Omnichannel ensures that whether the customer is interacting with an AI chatbot, walking through a physical door, or scrolling a feed, the messaging is unified.
And the branding is consistent.
Exactly. And most importantly, the data travels with them. The channels are no longer competing for the sale, they are passing the baton.
The source material provides two incredible, concrete behaviors that illustrate this omnichannel baton pass perfectly: web rooming and showrooming.
Yes.
These behaviors used to terrify retailers, but omnichannel embraces them. Let's break down web rooming first.
Web rooming is the practice of researching a product expensively online. So, top of the funnel, but making the final transaction in a physical store. Bottom of the funnel.
And this is common.
Incredibly dominant in consumer electronics.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you are buying a $2,000 laptop, you aren't just going to blindly walk into a store.
No way.
You are going to spend days reading tech blogs, watching YouTube benchmark tests, comparing specifications. The digital channels are doing the heavy lifting of discovery and evaluation.
I do this obsessively. I researched a mirrorless camera for a month online. But at the end of the day, I refused to hit add to cart.
You needed to see it.
I needed to physically hold the camera. I needed to feel the weight of it, the ergonomics of the grip, the tactile click of the shutter button. So I walked into a physical camera shop to buy it. Online, drove the intent. Offline, closed the deal.
And an omnichannel retailer understands this entirely. They make sure their website's inventory matches the local store exactly. They might even allow you to book an in-store appointment right from the product page. Now, showrooming is the exact inverse of this behavior, and it is highly prevalent in fashion and apparel.
Right. This is when people use the physical store as a fitting room but buy it online. Retailers used to absolutely hate this. They called it Amazoning your local store.
They hated it because they were trapped in a multi-channel mindset. They viewed the physical store solely as a distribution center that needed to generate direct sales to justify its rent.
Right.
Showrooming is when a customer walks into a boutique to physically touch the fabric of a jacket, try it on to ensure the tailoring fits their specific body shape, and then, while literally standing in the aisle, pulls out their phone to find a 15% discount code or a different color online, completing the purchase digitally.
So the physical space is the top of the funnel discovery and evaluation, and digital is the bottom of the funnel.
Correct.
So how does an omnichannel strategy fix the retailer's anxiety about this?
By changing the metric of success for the physical space. In an omnichannel ecosystem, the physical store is reclassified as a vital customer acquisition channel, an experiential touchpoint.
They just want you in the ecosystem.
Exactly. The brand doesn't care if the final transaction happens on their app or at the cash register, as long as the data is connected and the customer stays within their ecosystem. They might even equip their floor staff with tablets to help the customer order the out-of-stock color online right there in the store, guaranteeing the sale isn't lost to a competitor.
Okay, so the practical takeaway for you, listener, right here, is an audit of your customer's friction. You need to map out your customer's actual messy, ricocheting path to purchase.
Look at your internal data.
Yeah. Are your digital team and your physical sales reps competing for attribution? If I put a pair of shoes in my digital cart on Tuesday, does your point of sale system know about it when I walk into your boutique on Thursday?
If the answer is no, You are still running a multi-channel buffet where the customer has to carry their own plate between disconnected stations.
You need to build the curated Michelin star omni-channel experience where the data flows seamlessly.
And that integration is the absolute prerequisite for everything that follows. Because if you think merging an e-commerce cart with a physical cash register is difficult, we are about to exponentially increase the complexity.
Which brings us to the bleeding edge. Key idea 3. We've established the evolutionary history. We've moved from the disconnected buffet of multi-channel to the seamless baton pass of omni-channel. Now we are blowing the walls off the building entirely.
We are.
We are entering the meta-marketing paradigm, the era of marketing 6.0.
This is where we cross the Rubicon. Metamarketing takes the seamless integration of omnichannel and pushes it to its absolute ontological limit. The authors provide a very specific definition that we need to anchor on here.
Let's hear it.
They define metamarketing as a marketing approach that transcends the boundaries between the physical and digital worlds, providing an immersive experience where customers perceive no distinction between the two.
I want to pause on that phrase, no distinction between the two. That is a massive, audacious claim. You're saying my brain won't know if it's interacting with code or atoms.
I'm saying the utility of making the distinction will vanish entirely. Let's look at the prefix meta. It's derived from Greek, meaning beyond or transcending. We are transcending the concept of channels entirely.
Okay.
If multi-channel is online or offline, and omnichannel is online, AND offline. Metamarketing is online, IN offline, and offline, IN online.
Right.
It is a total collapse of the boundary.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. Why is this necessary? Why are brands spending billions of dollars to blur these lines? Isn't a really good omnichannel app enough?
It's not enough because of two converging forces: biological fatigue and generational turnover.
Start with the fatigue.
Especially post-pandemic, we have reached maximum saturation with 2D digital interaction. We are exhausted by staring at flat glass rectangles, scrolling endless feeds, and sitting in rigid Zoom boxes.
Zoom fatigue is real. The digital world is highly efficient, but emotionally sterile.
Exactly. The brain craves spatial, dimensional interaction. And the second force is the rise of Generation Z and Generation Alpha. The authors specifically label them phygital natives.
Phygital natives.
Yes. This is a crucial psychological distinction. You and I might remember the sound of dial-up internet, right? We remember a time when you logged onto the digital world and then log off to return to the real world.
I remember fighting my sister for the landline so I could use AOL.
Right. But phygital natives were born into a world where the internet is like oxygen. It has always been everywhere, powering everything.
So to them, a digital asset is just as real as a physical object.
Precisely. To a 14-year-old, the limited edition digital skin they bought for their avatar in Fortnite carries the exact same social capital, the exact same emotional weight and stats signaling as a physical pair of limited edition sneakers they wear to school.
That is wild to think about, but it's true.
They do not compartmentalize their identity into online me and offline me. It is one continuous identity. If a brand insists on treating digital and physical as separate channels, they are speaking a dead language to the most important consumer demographic of the next 2 decades.
So to engage them, brands must embed the digital into the physical environment seamlessly. Let's ground this high-level philosophy in some concrete mechanics. How is this actually manifesting today? Let's start with augmented reality, AR. This is the process of putting the digital in the physical.
AR is the bridge. It overlays contextual digital data or 3D objects onto your real-world view. The most mainstream, culturally defining example of this was Pokémon Go.
Oh man, the summer of Pokemon Go was incredible.
We had millions of people walking down actual physical streets, but through the lens of their smartphones, they were interacting with virtual creatures sitting on real park benches. But the commercial applications are far more profound.
The book uses IKEA as a classic benchmark here.
Yes, the IKEA Place app. And let's look at the mechanics of why this works. It doesn't just paste a 2D sticker of a couch on your camera feed. It uses the LiDAR sensors and cameras on your smartphone to map the actual 3D topography of your living room.
So it knows the physical space.
It understands where the floor is, where the walls are, the ambient lighting. So when you select a virtual couch, it drops it into the room at the exact true-to-life scale. If you walk closer to it with your phone, the couch gets bigger. You can see if the fabric color clashes with your real rug.
The digital object behaves as if it obeys physical laws.
Exactly.
L'Oreal is doing something similar in the beauty space, right? Virtual try-ons.
They are using really advanced computer vision algorithms. You look at your phone's front-facing camera, And the AR technology maps dozens of micropoints on your face in real time. It then mathematically applies digital lipstick or eyeshadow.
Oh, wow.
If you turn your head, the digital makeup tracks perfectly with your physical movement, adjusting to the shadows in your room. You are standing in your physical bathroom, but your reflection is being augmented by a digital product database.
Okay, so AR brings the internet into our physical room. The other side of the coin is virtual reality, VR. This is putting physical sensations in the digital world.
VR is about total immersion and presence. You put on a headset, and it occludes the physical world entirely. The goal is to simulate real-world physical and emotional responses within a synthetic environment.
Who's doing this well?
The source material highlights automotive brands like Volvo and BMW. Instead of just looking at photos of a car online, they use VR to put you in the driver's seat. You can look around the interior, feel the scale of the dashboard, and take a virtual test drive.
That's a great application.
And the New York Times uses VR for immersive journalism. Instead of reading a text article about a refugee camp, you put on a headset and you are standing in the center of the camp. The empathy generated is exponentially higher because your brain registers it as a spatial memory, not just consumed data.
Both AR and VR are grouped under extended reality, XR. But we cannot talk about the meta era without addressing the massive elephant in the room, the metaverse.
The metaverse is the ultimate manifestation of this digital merger. The simplest definition is that a metaverse is a fully functional, persistent virtual world that closely mimics physical social dynamics, where individuals exist and interact as avatars.
The early iterations of this are undeniably rooted in gaming. The book talks about Roblox, Minecraft, Decentraland, Fortnite. My nephew practically lives in Roblox. It's where he hangs out after school.
And that hanging out is the critical evolution. These platforms are transcending their original gaming mechanics to become pure social hubs.
Like digital malls?
Yes. The authors point to the massive virtual concerts hosted in Fortnite. Artists like Travis Scott and Ariana Grande performed live as towering digital avatars. Millions of players attended simultaneously.
They weren't there to play the game.
No, they weren't shooting each other. They were dancing, socializing, and spending real money to buy digital merchandise for their avatars. It was a shared cultural moment happening entirely in a synthetic space.
Okay, I have to step in here and push back on behalf of the listener, because there is a massive gap between the theory of the metaverse and the current cultural reality.
Fair point.
A few years ago, Facebook rebranded to Meta. Mark Zuckerberg did a weird presentation. As a legless avatar, billions of dollars were spent, and the media lost its mind. But lately, it feels like a ghost town. Everyone is obsessed with generative AI, and the metaverse feels like a punchline. Is the metaverse just a dead, overhyped buzzword from 2021?
I am glad you brought that up because it is the most common and justified skepticism in the market right now. You have to separate the financial hype cycle from the underlying technological trajectory.
Okay, unpack that.
The initial hype was heavily contaminated by cryptocurrency speculation and NFTs that felt like pure grift to the average consumer. When the crypto bubble popped, the media declared the metaverse dead.
But you're saying the obituary was premature?
I'm saying the media confused the scaffolding for the building. The hype cooled, but the underlying architecture is quietly and aggressively being constructed by the largest tech companies on Earth.
So it's still happening.
The book argues forcefully that the metaverse is not a fad. It is the inevitable next iteration of the internet. We went from text-based web pages to photo-based social media feeds to video-based feeds like TikTok. The next logical evolution is the 3D spatial interactive web.
The 3D internet.
Exactly. The transition from 2D scrolling to 3D spatial environments will happen. It is just taking longer to build the hardware and network infrastructure to make it frictionless and photorealistic.
Yeah.
It is a 10 to 15-year play, not a get-rich-quick scheme.
That reframes it perfectly. So what is the practical takeaway for the listener who is running a business today?
The takeaway is to start retraining your perspective. You need to look at your physical assets, your retail store, your pop-up events, even the physical packaging of your product as portals.
Portals.
They are physical doors that should open into digital experiences. And conversely, look at your digital spaces not just as catalogs, but as places for real-world socialization. And you do not need to build a multi-million-dollar VR world to start.
What's a simple first step?
A remarkably effective first step into metamarketing is a well-designed QR code on your product box that, when scanned, triggers an engaging, helpful AR overlay on the customer's phone, showing them exactly how to assemble or use the product in their own home, It's about taking that first step toward dissolving the screen.
Which begs the ultimate operational question, how do we actually build this? We understand the philosophy, but what are the nuts and bolts? This brings us to key idea 4, the architecture of immersion.
The blueprint.
Right. The book maps out the specific blueprint for Marketing 6.0, divided into 3 distinct layers. Let's unpack this architecture, starting from the bedrock: the enabler, the environment, and the experience.
This is where we move from theory to engineering. Layer 1 is the enabler layer. This is the foundational technology stack. Without these 5 core technologies functioning flawlessly in the background, metamarketing is impossible.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first enabler is IoT, the Internet of Things.
Whenever I hear IoT, my brain immediately goes to a smart refrigerator that automatically orders milk when I run out. Which is cool, but how does that apply to a marketing ecosystem?
Think of IoT as the sensory nervous system of the physical world. In a marketing context, IoT is a network of physical sensors, cameras, and beacons deployed in real-world spaces to capture behavioral data.
Give me a scenario.
Let's look at a modern retail store. The ceiling is lined with optical sensors and Bluetooth beacons. These aren't security cameras, they are spatial trackers. When a customer walks in, their smartphone pings the beacon. The sensors track the customer's physical pathway through the store.
Wait, pause on that for a second. You're telling me a ceiling sensor knows exactly how long I'm lingering in the shoe aisle? As a consumer, that sounds incredibly invasive. Are we just building a surveillance state for sneakers?
It's a valid concern.
How does Marketing 6.0 handle the privacy backlash of this kind of granular tracking?
It is a vital ethical and legal consideration. The shift here is from identifiable surveillance to aggregated spatial data, combined with explicit opt-in value exchanges.
Okay, explain the opt-in part.
Modern systems aren't using facial recognition to say, John Doe is looking at shoes. They are using LiDAR or infrared to say, a mobile device with this anonymous ID has dwelled in zone 4 for 3 minutes. If that device has the brand's app installed and the user has opted in because the app gives them a 20% discount for location tracking, then the connection is made.
Ah, so there's a clear value exchange.
Exactly. The physical action lingering in the aisle is instantly transformed into digital data. The IoT sensor detects the dwell time and triggers the app to send a customized notification about a flash sale on those exact running shoes while the customer is still standing there.
Okay, so IoT captures the physical data, but capturing it isn't enough. It has to be processed. That's the second enabler, right? AI.
Precisely. If IoT is the nervous system, AI is the brain. A flagship retail store generates terabytes of raw spatial and behavioral data every day. Human analysts can't parse that.
Too much noise.
Way too much. AI algorithms ingest that massive data stream and process it in milliseconds. This is where edge computing comes in.
Edge computing.
The AI has to make decisions locally, near the sensor, to reduce latency. The AI learns the customer's preferences on the fly and decides exactly which product, discount, or digital content is most statistically likely to trigger a conversion in that specific micro moment.
Okay, we have the nervous system and the brain. Enabler number 3 is spatial computing. This is a term Apple has been throwing around heavily with their Vision Pro headset. But what is it practically?
Spatial computing is the technology that allows software to understand, interact with, and manipulate the 3D physical geometry of a room in real time. Traditional computing understands a 2D screen. Spatial computing understands depth, volume, and physics.
Do we have an example?
The book uses the example of smart fitting rooms.
Oh, break down the mechanics of a smart fitting room. How does it work?
You walk into a physical fitting room holding 3 physical shirts. The spatial computing system, utilizing computer vision and RFID tags, instantly identifies the specific garments. The mirror in front of you isn't just glass, it's an interactive volumetric display.
So it's projecting things.
Yes, it projects a digital interface onto the mirror. Because it uses spatial mapping, it understands your specific body proportions. It can project a digital rendering of a different colored shirt onto your reflection, and the digital fabric will computationally drape and fold according to your actual physical posture.
That is mind-bending.
It can recommend a matching jacket and digitally project it over the shirt you are physically wearing. It is fusing complex digital interactivity into the geometry of the physical space.
Enabler 4, we've touched on, AR and VR. These are the interface technologies. They are the actual glasses or screens you look through to experience the spatial computing. But Enabler 5 is where I really need you to clarify things. Blockchain.
Ah, yes.
Why on earth do we need cryptocurrency infrastructure to build a marketing experience?
This is a critical misconception. Do not conflate blockchain technology with the volatile crypto trading markets. In the context of metamarketing and the metaverse, blockchain is about establishing a decentralized infrastructure for digital ownership and scarcity.
Explain digital scarcity. Why does that matter?
On the traditional internet, if I send you a digital photo, I still have a copy, and you have a copy. Data is infinitely replicable. That makes it impossible to assign value to digital goods.
Because anyone can just copy and paste it.
Exactly. If a brand like Nike wants to sell a pair of digital sneakers for your avatar to wear in a metaverse, why would anyone pay $50 for them if someone else can just right-click and copy the file?
Ah, so blockchain prevents the copying.
Exactly. Blockchain utilizes smart contracts, immutable, verifiable code on a public ledger to prove that a specific digital asset is unique and owned by a specific wallet. It introduces verifiable scarcity to the digital realm.
Which creates a market.
Yes, this is vital because it allows metaverses to have robust, functioning internal economies. It allows users and creators to actually own their digital assets rather than just renting space on a centralized server owned by Meta or Google. Blockchain is the foundational plumbing of a phygital economy.
Okay, that makes total sense now. So, layer one, the enablers, IoT, AI, spatial computing, AR, VR, and blockchain. That is the wiring. Once you have that deep technological foundation, you move to layer two, the environment, the canvas.
Right. The technologies in Layer 1 allow brands to build two distinct types of environments for Marketing 6.0. The first type is extended realities.
What's that look like?
These are physical spaces that have been digitally augmented. Think of an Amazon Go store. You walk in, take a sandwich off the physical shelf, and just walk out.
No checkout line.
Exactly. The ceiling sensors, which is IoT and computer vision, spatial computing, and AI, they track the item, and the transaction happens invisibly on your app. The physical store is behaving with the frictionless efficiency of a website.
And the second environment in layer two is the metaverses.
Yes, the purely virtual worlds. And as we noted with the blockchain discussion, these can be centralized like Roblox, which owns and controls everything on its servers, or decentralized, governed by a community of users, and secured by blockchain, like Decentraland. These are the environments where the phygital natives are migrating.
So we have the wiring in layer one, and we have built the rooms in layer two. Now we arrive at layer three, the top of the pyramid. The experience.
The fun part.
Yeah, the execution layer. This is what the customer actually feels and remembers. The text outlines three specific types of experiences in this new era. The first is multi-sensory marketing.
This is about breaking out of the audiovisual prison. Digital marketing has historically only engaged sight and sound, but true immersion requires engaging all five senses. The book uses Starbucks as the quintessential baseline for this in the physical world.
Oh, totally.
When you walk into a Starbucks, you aren't just engaging visually with the logo. The brand is assaulting your senses in a highly orchestrated way.
The smell of the coffee is the most obvious one.
Yes, olfactory branding. The smell is carefully managed, but it's also the specific indie folk acoustic playlist they curate globally. It's the tactile, haptic feedback of the heavy ceramic mugs, the ambient temperature, the taste of the specific roast. It's a fully orchestrated multi-sensory symphony.
And how does that translate to 6.0?
In Marketing 6.0, the objective is to take that physical sensory richness and inject it with the one-to-one digital personalization made possible by Layer 1.
Okay, the second experience type is spatial marketing.
Spatial marketing is about environments dynamically adapting to the user. It is delivering natural human-machine interactions by automating the physical world to sync with human movement and preference.
Give me a real-world example of that.
Imagine checking into a high-end hotel room. Because your smartphone profile connects securely to the room's IoT network, the moment you cross the threshold, the room adjusts spatially. The digital artwork on the walls shifts to your favorite aesthetic. The ambient lighting adjusts to the exact Kelvin temperature you prefer, and the smart glass on the windows tints based on where you are standing in the room to reduce glare. The physical environment is reacting to your digital data profile.
It's an environment that knows you. And finally, the third experience is metaverse marketing.
This is the most experimental frontier. It's about brands providing experiences that completely defy physical physics, but create genuine emotional connection.
Defy physics.
Yeah, it's Gucci creating a virtual garden in Roblox, where avatars can explore surreal landscapes and purchase digital bags that sometimes sell for more than their physical counterparts. It's about building brand equity in realms where gravity literally doesn't exist.
Let me try to pull this entire architecture together into one coherent image for the listener, because it's a lot to take in. Building a meta-marketing strategy is exactly like building a cutting-edge, ultra-modern smart home.
I love this.
Layer 1, the enablers, the IoT sensors, the AI edge computing, the blockchain security, that is, the copper wiring, the fiber optic cables, and the HVAC ducts hidden deep inside the drywall.
Right.
You never actually look at them, but if they are broken, the house is uninhabitable.
Right.
Layer 2, the environment, the extended realities, and metaverses, that is the physical structure of the house. The walls, the roof, and the plot of virtual land it sits on.
Yep.
And layer 3, the experience, the multisensory and spatial marketing, that is the warm, cozy, perfectly lit feeling you get when you walk through the front door after a brutal day. Your favorite jazz track fades in automatically, and the temperature is exactly 71 degrees.
That is a flawless summary of the architecture. You cannot synthesize that feeling of warmth without the complex, invisible wiring in the walls.
Which leads to a harsh but necessary practical takeaway. Do not get distracted by the shiny experience layer if you haven't invested in the enabler layer. I see so many mid-sized brands panic, read a tech blog, and scream, "We need a virtual reality store in the metaverse."
All the time.
Meanwhile, their physical point-of-sale system doesn't even talk to their website's CRM database. If you are a business leader listening to this, your very first step into Marketing 6.0 is not buying virtual real estate.
No, please don't.
Your first step is capturing better real-time data on your physical customers using accessible IoT tools and using baseline AI to actually integrate that data across your channels. Build the wiring first.
If we zoom out and connect all of this to the macro thesis of the chapter, the soul of Marketing 6.0 represents a fundamental shift in the prepositions we use to define our strategies.
Prepositions. Okay, explain.
For the last 20 years, businesses have argued about either. Do we invest in traditional offline marketing or digital marketing? Then as things matured, we shifted to and. We need traditional and digital. That was the omni-channel era.
Right.
The era we are crossing into right now, meta-marketing, is the era of in.
The era of in. That is incredibly clarifying.
We are no longer bolting things together. We are embedding digital computational power in physical retail spaces using spatial computing. And we are creating visceral, real-life social sensations in synthetic virtual worlds. The boundary between the two is no longer just blurred. It is actively being erased.
It is the total dissolution of the screen.
Yeah.
The friction between IRL in real life and URL is vanishing.
Completely vanishing.
The brands that are going to dominate the next 10 years are the ones who stop trying to force customers to stare at a glowing rectangle and start orchestrating seamless, frictionless digital realities that envelop the customer completely. You aren't just selling a product to a consumer anymore, you are co-inhabiting an environment with them.
And operating in a shared environment requires a level of technological sophistication and genuine human empathy that most legacy brands are completely unprepared for.
Which brings us to the end of our foundational blueprint. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a provocative challenge, inspired directly by the reflection questions at the end of Chapter 1 in Kotler's book.
It's a good challenge.
Sometime this week, I want you to go to a public space, a mall, a park, a coffee shop, and just quietly observe the younger generation, Generation Z, Generation Alpha. Watch how they interact with their devices and their physical surroundings.
Pay close attention.
Ask yourself, why are they spending so much of their finite time in virtual spatial worlds? What deep sense of community, what level of infinite personalization, what kind of frictionless agency are they getting in those digital spaces that the physical world around them is fundamentally failing to provide?
If you can decode the answer to that question, you will understand exactly what your business needs to build to survive tomorrow.
We have laid the technological foundation today. We understand the evolutionary timeline, the shift from omni to meta, and the architectural layers of immersion. But having the blueprint isn't enough. We have to deeply understand the psychology of the people who will actually live inside these immersive worlds.
The next generation.
Join us on our next deep dive as we unpack the minds of the ultimate target audience, the phygital natives of Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Until then, keep questioning the boundaries of your reality. I am looking at a data set right now from McKinsey, and honestly, it completely shatters. I mean, just totally breaks everything we think we know about the modern consumer.
Oh, absolutely. The assumptions we've been running on are just, well, they're wildly outdated.
Right, because we spent, the last 10 years operating under this idea that the youth of today Generation Z, Generation Alpha, that they are practically cyborgs.
Right, like they're just hardwired into their devices.
Exactly. We assume they have iPhones just like surgically attached to their hands. We think they live entirely inside the metaverse and that they view the physical world as this, I don't know, this annoying high friction place they only interact with when they are absolutely forced to.
Which, to be fair, is a completely logical assumption if you only look at their screen time reports, right?
Right.
You'd think physical retail is on permanent, irreversible life support.
Yes, exactly. But then, and this is where it gets crazy, you look at this McKinsey survey, and it covers 25 different product categories. And across the board, Gen Z does more physical brick-and-mortar shopping in the United States than millennials do.
It's wild.
The most digitally obsessed, screen-addicted generation in human history actually prefers the checkout line over the checkout button. That contradiction just, it completely broke my brain.
It forces a total recalibration of how we see them. Because, we are looking at a demographic that represents over 4 billion people globally.
4 billion. Wow.
Yeah, 4 billion. And if you assume that their digital obsession automatically means a rejection of physical spaces, well, you are entirely misreading the mechanics of how they interact with reality.
And that misreading is exactly what we are untangling for you today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
We are dissecting Chapter 2 from the source material, Marketing 6.0, The Future is Immersive, and we're really focusing on the emergence of what the authors call phygital natives.
Digital, yeah. Physical and digital blended together.
Exactly. This covers Generation Z. So born roughly mid-90s to early 2010s, and Generation Alpha, born post-2010. And I'll say this right now. If you are building a business, if you're designing a product, or just trying to figure out where commerce is actually heading over the next decade, this is the cheat code.
It really is the ultimate cheat code.
We are going to map out how these cohorts have just completely obliterated the boundary between physical and digital reality, and why your survival in the market really depends on understanding that blur.
Yeah, and we really need to start by understanding the baseline of how these generations process information in the first place.
Okay, where do we start?
Well, because the corporate world is still largely running a millennial playbook.
Right.
For the last 10 to 15 years, every major brand out there rewired its infrastructure to capture millennials' Generation Y.
Oh, for sure. Everything went to apps, cloud infrastructure, social media campaigns.
Right. And because that pivot was so massive and so expensive, there is this immense institutional inertia. Companies sit back and think, well, okay, we digitized. We're good for the next generation, too.
Because they just group millennials and Gen Z into the same, young people who like phones bucket.
Exactly. Which is a fatal error. The behavioral architecture is entirely different between the two.
How so?
Well, millennials are what we call digital savvy. They grew up as the internet was maturing. I mean, they remember dial-up.
The horrible screeching noise.
You're right. Do you remember when you had to physically sit at a desktop computer in the family room just to, go online?
Yeah, going online was an activity. It was a destination.
Exactly. For them, the internet is a tool. There is a very distinct psychological separation between offline life and online life.
I always think of it in terms of linguistics. Like, millennials learned the internet the way you learn a second language in high school.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like, you can become incredibly fluent. You can study abroad. You can even dream in that language.
Yeah.
But there is always a foundational translation happening in your brain.
Hmm.
But Gen Z and Alpha, they didn't learn the internet. It is their mother tongue. They were just born into a world where ubiquitous connectivity was the baseline state of nature.
That linguistic analogy gets right to the core of it, really. Because they never had to translate the physical to the digital. They just don't perceive the boundary. They don't log on to the internet. They just exist within it.
They just are online.
Yeah. And because they have been subjected to this relentless fire hose of digital stimulation since literally birth, their cognitive filtering mechanisms have adapted in ways that older generations really often misinterpret.
Misinterpret how?
Yeah.
Because older generations usually just label it as ADHD. You always hear complaints about Gen Z having zero attention span, like they can't focus on anything for more than 8 seconds.
Right, but it isn't a lack of attention. It is extreme, ruthless selectivity.
Interesting. Selective, not deficit.
Exactly. Think about it. If you are bombarded with millions of marketing messages, notifications, and just endless content pieces from the moment you wake up, an 8-second filter is an evolutionary necessity.
Wow. Yeah, I guess you'd go crazy otherwise.
You would experience total cognitive collapse if you gave equal weight to every single input. So they have developed this highly sophisticated heuristic to determine, within milliseconds, if a piece of content or a brand message is actually worth their time.
Okay, so for you listening, how does that heuristic actually function? What actually gets past that 8-second firewall?
Hyper-personalized, high-density visual content.
Okay, unpack that.
This is the entire architectural foundation of TikTok. TikTok didn't just invent short-form video. They perfected the algorithmic delivery of relevance.
For you page.
Right. It bypasses the conscious choice of having to search and click on a video, and it simply serves you this endless, frictionless stream of content tailored exactly to your micro-preferences.
And the density part.
The density is key.
Yeah.
A Gen Z user doesn't want a 10-minute video with a long, drawn-out introduction. They want the punchline, the life hack, or the product review delivered in 12 seconds with text overlays and trending audio.
It is so effective that it fundamentally altered the UX of every other major platform out there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Instagram had to build Reels. YouTube, which spent a decade conditioning creators to make longer and longer videos just to pack in more ad revenue, suddenly had to pivot to shorts just to stop the bleeding.
But the truly disruptive part isn't even just entertainment. This demand for immediate, hyper-relevant visual information has completely rewired search behavior.
Really? Like how they look things up?
Yes. We are seeing a massive migration away from traditional text-based search engines like Google and toward visual platforms.
I want to pause on this for a second because the mechanics here are fascinating. Say I want to know how to fix a jammed garbage disposal. My millennial instinct is to type the problem into a search engine, scroll past 4 sponsored links, find a forum or an article, and read the steps. You are saying Gen Z skips that entirely.
They skip it completely. They go straight to TikTok or YouTube. I mean, why would they read a text description of a mechanical problem when they can watch a 30-second video of someone actually putting their hands under the sink and fixing it?
That makes so much sense when you put it like that.
Visual search provides immediate proof of concept. Or, think about restaurant discovery.
Okay.
A text search gives you a Yelp review, which they know can be gamed or faked, and a static menu.
Right.
A TikTok search gives them the actual vibe of the room, the lighting, the plating of the food, the demographic of the crowd, all in a 15-second visual burst.
It's like the difference between reading a paper map and looking at a live satellite feed. The visual data is just infinitely richer and faster to parse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that speed and relevance, they are non-negotiable for them, which naturally brings us to their relationship with artificial intelligence.
Because AI is the engine for all that personalization.
Right, because they demand this level of hyper-personalization. They are inherently AI natives.
Now, when the source material calls them AI natives, we are suggesting that every 12-year-old is writing Python scripts or training neural networks in their bedroom, right?
No, no, no. It means they intuitively understand the value exchange mechanism of AI.
The trade-off.
Yes. Millennials and Gen X tend to view algorithmic tracking with a baseline level of suspicion. There's a lot of anxiety about data privacy and the creepy factor of an app knowing what you were just talking about.
Oh yeah, the whole is my phone listening to me panic.
Right. But Gen Z understands the trade-off. They know the algorithm is watching their dwell time, their clicks, their micro-interactions. And their stance is essentially, I will give you my data, but the tax you pay for that data is perfectly curated utility.
Wow. So the moment the algorithm serves them something irrelevant, the contract is broken.
Exactly. They expect AI to reduce friction. They use tools like ChatGPT not as some fun novelty, but as a standard piece of their cognitive tech stack.
To do what, exactly?
To summarize long documents, draft emails, brainstorm ideas, they are entirely comfortable interacting with a chatbot for customer service, provided, and this is a big nagano, provided the chatbot is actually intelligent enough to solve the problem instantly.
Right. None of those old clunky phone menus.
Exactly. If the AI wastes their time, they will turn on the brand immediately. But if it accelerates their goal, they embrace it without any of that existential hand-wringing you see in older demographics.
This inherent comfort with digital environments extends really heavily into how they socialize, too.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the gaming platforms, Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft. The sources label them metaverse natives.
Which is a term that gets thrown around a lot, usually by tech executives trying to sell VR headsets.
Yeah, the corporate metaverse.
Right, but for Gen Z and Alpha, the metaverse isn't some futuristic, immersive VR utopia that we're waiting for. It is just Roblox. It is a persistent digital space where they already spend hours every single day.
I think the fundamental misunderstanding that a lot of adults have about Fortnite or Roblox is that we view them as games. We think of them like Super Mario or Halo, right?
Huh.
A challenge you try to beat.
Exactly, a game to be won.
But for Gen Z, these platforms are infrastructure. They are digital third places.
They are the modern equivalent of the 1990s shopping mall or the cul-de-sac. You don't log into Fortnite solely to shoot other players and win a battle royale. You log in to hang out with your friends after school.
Right, the game is just the backdrop.
Exactly. You might just stand in the lobby talking over voice chat for 2 hours. I mean, Ariana Grande and Travis Scott perform concerts inside Fortnite, drawing tens of millions of concurrent viewers.
Tens of millions just sitting in a digital lobby.
Yeah, these aren't just games. They are highly immersive social networks.
Okay, so synthesizing this first piece of the puzzle for you listening, if you are running a business, you cannot have a siloed digital strategy. You can't just bolt a mobile app onto your existing infrastructure and call it a day.
No, you really can't.
Your digital presence must operate at the speed of TikTok. It must leverage AI to offer hyper-personalized utility, and it must feel natively immersive.
But here is where we hit that massive friction point you brought up in the intro.
The McKinsey data.
Yes. If they are this deeply immersed in the digital realm, if they socialize in Roblox, search on TikTok, and outsource cognitive tasks to AI, why does the McKinsey data show them flooding into physical brick-and-mortar stores?
Right. I am calling a timeout on this data because I need to argue the logic here.
Go for it.
The entire promise of the digital revolution was the elimination of friction. I don't have to find my keys, start my car, sit in traffic, find parking, walk through a massive store, deal with a pushy salesperson, stand in a checkout line, and drive home.
That's a lot of friction.
It is. I can literally double tap a screen while lying in bed, and the item appears on my porch 24 hours later. Why on earth would a generation that despises inefficiency voluntarily subject themselves to the friction of the physical world?
Because they aren't going to the store to acquire inventory?
Wait, what?
That is the critical distinction. If the goal is purely acquisition, yes, they will absolutely use Amazon or whatever delivery service. But they view the physical store through a completely different lens than previous generations did.
Okay, so what is the lens?
They view it as a sensory, experiential, and social hub. This is the essence of being a phygital native, the blending of physical and digital.
So the store isn't a warehouse where you go to get boxes. It is a stage.
It is a stage. And crucially, it is a stage that must be technologically enhanced. Let's look at the A.S. Watson research highlighted in the text.
They're a massive retailer, right?
The world's largest health and beauty retailer. Their data overwhelmingly proves that Gen Z prefers buying beauty products in physical stores.
Really? Not on TikTok Shop.
Nope, in physical stores. The sensory aspect is irreplaceable. You cannot swatch a foundation color on your jawline through a screen. You cannot smell a fragrance through an app. They want the tactile reality.
Yeah, makes sense.
And they want the social experience of going to the mall with their friends to do it.
But they aren't unplugging when they walk through the automatic doors.
Not even for a second. And this is exactly where the phygital behavior kicks in. Imagine a Gen Z consumer walks into an A.S. Watson store.
Okay.
They are physically holding a new skincare serum in their hand. But while they are standing in the aisle, they have their smartphone out. They are scanning the barcode with the brand's app to check the active ingredients.
Multitasking reality.
Exactly. They are cross-referencing the price on a competitor's website. They are pulling up TikTok to see if their favorite dermatologist influencer has reviewed this specific serum. They are snapping a picture and dropping it into a group chat on iMessage or WhatsApp to get real-time validation from their friends.
They are processing physical sensory data and digital validation data simultaneously.
Perfectly said. They are fluidly moving back and forth between the physical space and the digital space. And they expect the retailer to facilitate that fluidity.
So what happens if the retailer doesn't?
Well, if they walk into a store and there is no self-service, or the brand's app doesn't sync with the in-store inventory, or heaven forbid, the physical pricing doesn't match the digital pricing.
Oh, that's the worst.
Right, it creates massive cognitive dissonance for them. They feel like they have stepped back in time to the Stone Age, and they will literally just leave the store.
Yeah. This fundamentally changes the metrics we use to evaluate commercial real estate and retail strategy.
Completely.
I mean, if you are a legacy retailer, your primary KPI for decades has been sales per square foot. How much product can we cram onto these shelves, and how fast can we move it through the register?
The old warehouse model.
Yeah. But if Gen Z is using the store as an experiential showroom, like maybe they test the product in store but actually execute the purchase through your app later that night from bed, measuring sales per square foot is going to make your physical stores look like catastrophic failures.
Exactly. You have to shift to measuring things like experience per square foot or digital engagements per visit. The physical space is a customer acquisition tool and a brand loyalty builder now.
So how are brands actually doing this well?
We are seeing brands integrate augmented reality mirrors where you can virtually try on different makeup shades while standing in the physical makeup aisle.
Oh, that's cool.
We see QR codes that launch immersive AR product origin stories. The physical store has to validate the digital brand, and the digital tools must augment the physical store. You force them to choose one or the other, and you lose them.
Okay, this level of sophistication, cross-referencing supply chains, demanding AR integration, managing complex digital and physical data streams, simultaneously, it points to a demographic that is operating on a highly adult frequency.
Yes, very adult.
We are talking about teenagers and young adults navigating commerce with the scrutiny of, like, a corporate procurement officer.
Which perfectly segues into one of the most vital psychological observations in the text. The sources detail a phenomenon known as KGOY.
KGOY, kids getting older, younger.
Exactly. And this isn't just a marketing buzzword. It is a documented demographic shift. Generation Z and Alpha are maturing physically, mentally, and financially at an accelerated rate compared to historical norms.
I am trying to picture what KGOY actually looks like in the wild. Like, are we talking about a 14-year-old optimizing a stock portfolio on Robinhood while watching a Minecraft stream?
Honestly. Yes.
Because if so, that completely breaks the traditional marketing funnel, where we assume teenagers only care about status symbols and fitting in at school.
It absolutely shatters the traditional funnel. In developmental psychology, there are established stages of cognitive and emotional growth. What we are seeing with these generations is a massive compression of those stages.
Compression, meaning they happen at the same time.
Yes, they are navigating fundamental adolescent development, identity formation, peer socialization simultaneously with forefront mature developmental concerns,
Like what?
like macroeconomic stability, global climate policy, and long-term career viability.
That's a lot for a teenager.
Yeah.
What is the catalyst for this? Is it purely the internet giving them access to adult information?
The internet is the delivery mechanism, sure, but the catalyst is really their historical context and parenting. Gen Z grew up during a period of intense global volatility.
Right, the 2008 crash.
Exactly. The defining economic event of their early childhood was the Great Recession from 2007 to 2009. They watched their Gen X and older millennial parents lose jobs, lose homes, and struggle with immense financial anxiety.
It was a scary time.
And they saw older siblings graduate from college with massive student debt, only to move back into their childhood bedrooms because there were simply no jobs.
That level of systemic failure leaves a permanent psychological scar on a generation.
It really does. It creates a deeply ingrained pragmatism. And furthermore, their parents, who were determined not to shelter them from reality, often involved them in household financial discussions much earlier than previous generations would have.
So they weren't protected from it, they were immersed in it.
They were treated as active stakeholders in the family's economic survival.
Wow. So we have a generation whose worldview was basically forged in financial trauma, and now they're armed with unlimited access to global economic data via their phones. How does this pragmatic pivot manifest in their behavior today, particularly as they enter the workforce and the broader consumer market?
Let's contrast them with millennials to really highlight the shift, because it's stark.
Okay, let's do it.
The millennial narrative was heavily rooted in idealism. The cultural messaging they received growing up was follow your passion, do what you love, and the money will follow.
Oh, yeah, I remember that being everywhere.
In the corporate world, this translated into millennials flocking to trendy, high-risk startups. They wanted the ping pong tables, the unlimited cold brew on tap, the mission to change the world, even if the company had absolutely no clear path to profitability.
Right, the whole WeWork era vibe.
Precisely. Gen Z looks at that model and sees a massive, unacceptable risk.
They don't care about the ping pong tables.
Not at all. The Glassdoor data, cited in the sources, shows a distinct migration of younger workers toward large, established, heritage corporations.
Really, the boring, safe companies.
Exactly. They aren't looking for a ping pong table. They're looking for a fortress. They want job security, robust health benefits, transparent 401k matching, and a guarantee that the company won't just evaporate in the next venture capital drought.
They are prioritizing stability over idealistic passion projects.
Exactly.
So millennials were the follow your passion generation. Gen Z is the secure the bag, read the fine print, and hedge your bets generation.
That is the perfect summary. And that ruthless pragmatism defines exactly how they spend their money as consumers, too. Because they are so financially anxious and highly informed, they evaluate products based on functional utility and objective value.
So brand loyalty is dead.
Pretty much. A legacy brand cannot just slap a famous logo on a mediocre product and expect Gen Z to pay a premium for the status.
They will just go on TikTok, find a chemical engineer who breaks down the exact ingredient list, realize the $80 luxury face cream is functionally identical to a $15 drugstore cream, and they'll buy the cheaper one.
Exactly. They demand to know, does this work? Is it durable? Does the cost justify the functional benefit? They are highly resistant to traditional emotional manipulation in advertising.
This pragmatism also fundamentally alters their relationship with ownership, doesn't it? Because the traditional American dream was always about accumulating physical assets. You know, the house, the two cars, the garage, just full of stuff.
That accumulation model is largely dead for them. They have run the math, and they realize that owning depreciating assets is a poor deployment of capital.
Wow, phrased like an investment banker.
Right, but it's true. Instead, they prioritize access over ownership. This is exactly why the sharing economy feels so native to them.
Uber, Airbnb, Rent the Runway.
Yes. I mean, why take on the massive overhead of a car payment, insurance, and maintenance when you can simply rent mobility on demand?
So where does their money go instead?
They would much rather redirect that capital into experiences. The data shows they prioritize spending on travel, live events, wellness retreats, and personal development. They're investing in their own human capital and the memories they can create, rather than hoarding physical objects that tie them down.
Okay, so the operational takeaway here is profound. If your marketing strategy relies on artificial scarcity, emotional manipulation, or just pure brand prestige without any functional backing, Gen Z will annihilate you.
They will see right through it.
You have to lead with utility, transparency, and a very clear articulation of value.
And that demand for transparency brings us to arguably the most complex dynamic of this generation. Their absolute, uncompromising demand for raw authenticity and alignment with their values.
Authenticity. I have to admit, whenever I hear the word authenticity in a marketing context, I cringe a little.
It's overused for sure.
It has been beaten to death. Every brand agency in the world tells their clients, you need to be more authentic. It has become a completely hollow buzzword. So what does authenticity actually mean to a 19-year-old right now, and how is it different from what a 35-year-old millennial thinks it is?
To understand the difference, you really have to look at the visual culture they are reacting against. Millennials built what we call the Instagram aesthetic.
Oh, the filters.
Right. It was defined by intense curation, aspiration, and perfection. It was the perfectly lit avocado toast, the sunset filtered to look like a movie poster, the flawless vacation photos. It was about presenting an idealized, frictionless version of your life.
And Gen Z views that as fundamentally dishonest.
They view it as toxic, actually. They recognize the psychological damage that constant comparison to fake perfection causes. So their version of authenticity is rooted in the TikTok aesthetic.
Which is very different.
It is raw, unscripted, and deliberately imperfect. It is a video shot in a messy bedroom with bad lighting where the person is stumbling over their words or talking openly about a personal failure. They want to see the reality behind the curtain.
We actually see this manifesting in hard economic data, don't we? The text mentions a massive shift in the beauty industry.
Yes, the Kantar data illustrates this perfectly. For decades, the cosmetics industry was built on masking imperfections, heavy foundations, contouring, achieving this flawless, completely unnatural matte finish.
The Kardashian look.
Exactly. But in recent years, there's been a massive reallocation of spending away from heavy color cosmetics and toward complex skincare.
Wait, really? Skincare over makeup?
Yes, Gen Z wants to treat the underlying skin and then show off their natural texture, their freckles, even their blemishes. It is a literal and metaphorical rejection of covering things up.
They want you to keep it real. But this demand for authenticity isn't just about messy bedrooms and natural skin, is it? It extends to the macro level of corporate behavior. They expect brands to hold the same values they do.
And their values are highly defined. We are talking about the most racially, ethnically, and sexually diverse generations in human history.
Because of the internet.
Right, because of their exposure to global perspectives via the internet, they are highly inclusive. They value social harmony, they advocate for dialogue over confrontation, and they are acutely aware of systemic inequalities and the climate crisis.
So they expect the brands they buy from to reflect those exact concerns. But again, how do they distinguish between a company just releasing a nice PR statement about sustainability versus actual real authenticity?
Gen Z distinguishes it through operationalization,
Big word. Meaning what?
meaning they do not care about your PR statement. If you post a black square on Instagram for racial justice, but your executive board has zero diversity, they will find that data and they will expose the hypocrisy. You cannot just market a value. You have to operationalize it into your supply chain and your actual corporate structure.
Can we look at some of the case studies the sources provided on this? Because I think examples help cement this for the listener.
Sure. TMS Shoes is the classic foundational example here. They didn't just run an ad campaign about helping people. They built the one-for-one model into their unit economics.
Right. Buy a pair, give a pair.
Exactly. It linked consumption directly to a tangible social good. But Patagonia is perhaps the ultimate example of operationalized values.
Oh, I love what Patagonia does.
Their commitment to sustainability isn't just a marketing wing. It
Oh.
dictates their entire business model. They will actively run campaigns telling consumers not to buy their jackets unless they absolutely need to, offering free repairs instead.
Telling people not to buy your stuff is a bold move.
It is. But that level of anti-consumerism from a retail brand builds impenetrable trust with Gen Z.
And on the corporate side, the text mentions Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, and Procter & Gamble.
Yes, these giants are highlighted for their aggressive, measurable commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI). They aren't just talking about it. They are tying executive compensation to diversity metrics. They are auditing their hiring pipelines and ensuring their marketing accurately reflects a diverse reality of their consumer base.
They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Gen Z requires this structural proof. If they're going to give you their pragmatic, hard-earned money, they demand that your corporate footprint aligns with their moral compass.
It creates a terrifying environment for a legacy brand, honestly. You have a demographic that will literally stand in your physical aisle, pull up your ESG report on their phone, cross-reference it with a TikTok exposing a labor violation in your factory in Southeast Asia, and organize a boycott on Discord before they even leave the store.
The transparency is absolute, and the enforcement is incredibly swift, which makes this next dynamic so fascinating to me.
What's that?
This demographic, which demands raw, unfiltered reality and absolute transparency from corporations, is simultaneously spending hours every single day meticulously constructing and curating multiple digital identities.
That seems like a massive paradox. I mean, if they hate the fake, curated millennial Instagram aesthetic, why are they spending so much energy curating digital personas?
Because they view digital identity not as a fake mask, but as a fluid extension of their true self. They are navigating a highly fragmented digital landscape, and they deploy different facets of their identity based on the architecture of the platform they are inhabiting.
Let's break down that landscape. We've talked a lot about TikTok. Is that still the center of gravity?
It is the center of mass culture, yes, but its function is evolving rapidly. TikTok is transitioning into what we might call a mega platform or a super app.
Like WeChat in China. Exactly like that. It isn't just about entertainment anymore. It is becoming a primary commerce engine through TikTok Shop, where live streaming sales are generating billions. And billions. Right. And it is even becoming a professional networking tool. Features like TikTok resumes allow users to bypass traditional applicant tracking systems and pitch themselves directly to employers via short video.
So TikTok is basically the digital equivalent of Times Square, or like a massive, chaotic mega mall.
Right.
Everyone is there. The algorithm is screaming at you. Commerce and culture are just colliding constantly.
Yes.
But you can't live your whole life in Times Square. It's
Exactly.
clutter.
It's too much noise. And because they are highly aware of data privacy issues and the sheer psychological weight of algorithmic feeds, we're seeing a massive behavioral shift toward what we can call niche, community-based platforms. They are retreating from the mega mall and seeking out smaller, much more specialized spaces. I love the analogy of moving out of the noisy town square where a megaphone algorithm is blasting everyone and ducking down a side alley into a private, specialized speakeasy where people actually share your specific nerdy interests.
That is precisely the architectural difference between a platform like X or Instagram. versus platforms like Reddit, Discord, or Twitch.
Let's look at Discord. How does that fit in?
Well, Discord isn't an algorithmic feed designed to keep you scrolling infinitely. It is a series of private or semi-private servers organized around highly specific topics, a specific video game, a coding language, a niche music genre.
It functions a lot more like the early internet forums or chat rooms.
Yes, exactly. But with modern voice, video, and text infrastructure, these spaces foster deep, interactive, and trust-based connections. And crucially, they often operate on pseudonyms.
Ah, so they aren't using their real names.
Right. A Gen Z user might use their real name on LinkedIn or Instagram, but in a Discord server, they operate under an avatar and a handle.
Mm.
This affords them a layer of anonymity that allows for more vulnerable, authentic exploration of their interests without the pressure of performing for their entire real-world social network.
And within these specific digital ecosystems, their avatar, their digital representation carries immense weight.
It is a primary vector for self-expression and status. We go back to platforms like Fortnite or Roblox. The core game is free, right?
Right.
Where these platforms make billions of dollars is in the sale of digital assets, skins, virtual sneakers, customized emotes, digital clothing.
I think a lot of older executives look at a kid spending $20 of real money to buy a digital Balenciaga hoodie for their Fortnite character, and they just think it is sheer insanity. They think it's a scam.
Oh, they totally do.
Yeah.
But apply the phygital framework we established earlier. If the boundary between the physical and digital world does not exist for this generation, if they socialize, build relationships, and experience reality inside these digital spaces, then a digital hoodie is functionally identical to a physical hoodie.
It's just a different venue.
Exactly. It signals taste, status, and identity to their peer group. I mean, why would you spend $100 on a physical shirt that only the 30 kids at your high school will see when you can spend $20 on a digital shirt that thousands of people in your online community will see every single day?
The ROI on digital status is actually higher.
From their perspective, absolutely. So if you are a marketer trying to reach them, you have to respect this fragmented architecture. You cannot take a mass market ad campaign designed for television and just dump it into a Discord server.
You will be universally mocked and banned.
Immediately. You have to understand the specific culture of the speakeasy.
You have to provide localized value. You have to speak the language of that specific niche community, participate in the conversation interactively, and really earn your right to exist in their space. It requires a scalpel, not a sledgehammer.
Exactly.
This has been an incredibly dense journey. We have completely dismantled the standard assumptions about the youngest half of the global population. So let's synthesize this for the listener.
Okay.
If someone listening is sitting in a boardroom tomorrow morning trying to redesign their entire go-to-market strategy for Generation Z and Alpha, what is the ultimate unifying takeaway from this chapter?
The ultimate synthesis is that you must abandon binary thinking. You can no longer organize your business into digital and physical silos. Gen Z and Alpha are phygital natives. They demand a completely unified reality.
Unified reality.
Yes. They require the practical, functional value and sensory experience of the physical world, seamlessly integrated with the speed, hyper-personalization, and algorithmic utility of the digital world. Furthermore, they are armed with accelerated maturity and financial pragmatism, meaning they will see right through superficial marketing. You must operationalize your values into your actual business model and engage them authentically within their specific niche digital communities.
So it's a tall order.
It is. But if you can build a brand that withstands their rigorous fact-checking and enhances both their physical and digital existence, you will capture the most influential consumer block of the next century.
It is really about building a cohesive, immersive ecosystem rather than just selling a single product. And that concept of immersive ecosystems leads us perfectly into our next episode.
It sure does.
Next time on the Deep Dive, we are exploring the specific microtrends driving the era of immersive metamarketing. We are going to break down how spatial computing, advanced wearable devices, and the next evolution of short-form video are literally rewriting the physics of customer engagement. You definitely won't want to miss it.
Before we wrap up, though, I do want to leave you listening with a final thought to chew on, building on our discussion of digital avatars and assets.
Go for it.
We are already seeing Gen Z place massive psychological value on digital clothing and virtual items within closed ecosystems like gaming. As augmented reality glasses inevitably become as ubiquitous as smartphones, superimposing the digital world onto the physical world permanently.
Oh, wow.
How long is it before a purely digital holographic accessory that you wear in AR becomes more financially valuable to the average consumer than a physical piece of jewelry? And when that tipping point happens, what does that mean for the entire global manufacturing supply chain?
That is a staggering thought. The moment a string of code becomes a more coveted status symbol than a physical diamond, the entire foundation of how we value goods changes forever. We will leave you to think about that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
What if the internet you rely on today, the flat screens, the endless scrolling, the static websites, what if all of that is already completely obsolete?
I mean, it sounds a little disorienting, but the reality is the flat internet is already dying.
Right. What if we are standing on the edge of a three-dimensional digital world that just completely surrounds us?
Exactly. The way we shop, the way we scroll, the way we even talk to each other, it's being ripped up by these massive sort of invisible shifts.
So if you are still building websites that look like um, digital brochures, or if you're trying to just go viral on a massive social feed,
You are basically optimizing for an internet that just doesn't exist anymore.
it's a harsh reality for a lot of legacy brands.
Yeah.
But welcome to this deep dive. Over the next hour or so, we are going to unpack the 5 definitive micro trends from Chapter 3 of Marketing 6.0.
Yeah, and these are the trends quietly killing traditional digital marketing and giving rise to this new concept of meta marketing.
Right, metamarketing. And whether you are an entrepreneur, a marketer, or just someone who is endlessly curious about the future of business, understanding these 5 shifts is honestly the ultimate cheat code for the coming decade.
It really is. We're moving from a paradigm where the internet was this place you went to into a paradigm where it's simply a layer of reality that you inhabit.
But before we get to the flashy hardware, like the headsets and the spatial computing, we really have to start with human behavior.
Absolutely. The text outlines 5 essential components of marketing in this new digital world: content, social media, e-commerce, artificial intelligence, and devices.
And just to set the baseline for the massive shifts we're about to explore, we're talking about massive scale here. Pew Research Center data shows that 85% of Americans own a smartphone.
Yeah, and about half own a tablet, so the adoption is already there.
So let's look at the first pillar, content. Or I guess, more specifically, the death of the prolonged online session and the rise of the micro moment,
Right, the session is really a relic of the desktop era.
like dial-up days.
Yeah, think about the physical posture of the internet like 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You walked into a room, you sat down at a desk, woke up a machine, and consciously decided, I am going online right now.
You had a macro session.
Exactly. It lasted 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours. You checked your email, read a few articles, maybe did some online shopping.
Because the internet was literally tethered to a desk,
Yeah.
so your attention was highly consolidated.
But now the internet is in our pockets. It's on our wrists. It's in our ears. So that giant consolidated block of time has just completely shattered.
It shattered into 1,000 tiny fragments throughout the day.
Yes, we don't go online anymore. We just live online, but we engage in these tiny bursts.
And there's a specific term for this, right?
Yeah, Google and the Boston Consulting Group actually coined the term for this. They call them micro moments.
Micro
A
moment.
micro moment is this impulsive, highly intent-driven window of time where a user just turns to a device to act on a specific, immediate need.
Okay, so what kind of needs are we talking about here?
They categorize them into 4 primary buckets. So there's I want to know moments, I want to go moments, I want to do moments, and I want to buy moments.
Let's actually break down the psychology of that. Because if I'm standing in line at the grocery store and I've got, say, 90 seconds before it's my turn at the register, I pull out my phone.
Right, we all do.
But am I really in an I want to buy mindset in that specific 90-second window? To be honest, it feels more like I'm just killing time.
You are absolutely killing time, but you are doing it in an environment that is algorithmically designed to manufacture intent.
Manufacture intent. Okay, explain that.
Let's look at the neuroscience of the short-form video feed. So TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, whatever. When you pull out your phone in that grocery line, you aren't looking for a 20-page white paper on consumer electronics.
No, definitely not.
You are looking for a dopamine hit. And the short-form video feed provides intermittent variable rewards.
Like a slot machine.
Exactly like a slot machine. You scroll, you see something mildly amusing. You scroll again, something totally boring. You scroll a third time, and suddenly you see this 15-second, incredibly high-production video of someone using a hyper-specific kitchen gadget to, like, perfectly dice an onion.
Oh, I've bought so many of those gadgets.
See? In that exact fraction of a second, your passive state shifts. You go from just killing time to an I want to know or an I want to buy state.
Okay, I get the theory behind that. But how does this actually work for a massive brand? Like the text brings up Target as a specific example.
Target is a masterclass in
But are
this.
they just taking their standard 30-second television spots, chopping them into 10-second clips, and dumping them on Instagram? Because I see brands do that all the time, and it is incredibly jarring.
Oh, it usually fails miserably when brands do that.
Right.
It fails because a chopped-up TV commercial is still designed for a passive, captive audience. A TV commercial assumes you are sitting on your couch and you literally cannot skip it.
But a micro-moment strategy is totally different.
Yeah, it assumes you have a thumb hovering over the screen, ready to swipe away in 3 milliseconds.
So what does Target do differently?
Target doesn't recycle TV ads. They engineer content specifically for the architecture of the short-form feed. They produce dynamic, creator-style videos.
So it looks native to the platform.
Exactly. It might be a quick, energetic montage of a new spring clothing line or a fast-paced recipe using ingredients you can buy at their store, or, a 10-second hack for organizing a dorm room.
It's like moving from eating 3 square meals a day at a dining table to constantly grazing at a digital buffet line that just follows you everywhere.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
But let me push back slightly here. Does this mean brands have to completely abandon deep, long-form content, or is this strictly about capturing the top of the funnel?
I'm not saying deep content is obsolete at all, but its position in the customer journey has completely shifted.
Also,
Think of your massive $50,000 desktop website as the library. It is where people go for the deep evaluation phase. If I am buying a $10,000 mountain bike, I am absolutely going to sit down at a desktop, pull up your site, and read the geometry chart.
sure, because it's a huge investment.
But how do I find out your bike company exists in the first place? I don't go to Google and type good mountain bikes and read a 10-page article anymore.
Right, you discover them while grazing at the buffet line.
Exactly. I discover you because I'm scrolling on my phone while waiting for an elevator, and your brand intercepts me with a 12-second high adrenaline clip of a rider clearing a massive jump.
So short-form video is purely the interception tool.
Yes, it captures attention at the top of the funnel. If you don't master that micro-moment interception, your beautiful long-form library is going to remain completely empty because no one will ever find the front door.
Wow. Okay, so if you're building a brand or selling a service today, you literally cannot just wait for a customer to visit your website. You have to design content that intercepts them during these impulsive micro moments.
You have to, but the aesthetic is just the hook. The back-end integration is where the actual innovation happens.
What do you mean by back-end integration?
Well, think about the friction of the old internet. You saw an ad, you remembered the product, you opened a new tab, Googled it, and navigated to the site, found the item, added it to a cart, typed in your credit card, and finally bought it.
Yeah, that process takes at least 5 minutes.
But a micro moment only lasts 60 seconds. If Target forces you through a 5-minute funnel, they lose you the second the cashier says next in line.
Oh, I see. So they have to compress the funnel.
They don't just compress it, they annihilate it.
Hmm.
In these short-form videos on Instagram, the products are tagged natively.
Right, I've seen that.
You see the video of the dorm room hack? The storage bin catches your eye. You tap the bin literally inside the video player. A small drawer slides up with the price and a Buy Now button. You use Apple Pay with a double click, and the transaction is done before the video even loops again.
You never even leave the social media app.
Never. The discovery, the evaluation, and the purchase all happen within a single, continuous 30-second micro moment.
That is wild. Okay, so that makes perfect sense for discovery and top of funnel.
Yeah.
But let's say you successfully intercept them. You grab their attention for 15 seconds. They see the video, they like the brand, but maybe they aren't ready to buy in that exact split second.
Right, which happens all the time.
So where do they go to actually talk about it? Where do they form a relationship with the brand or with other people who like the brand? Because, the automatic assumption used to be Facebook or Twitter. You just build a massive following on a legacy social network.
That used to be the playbook, yeah.
But the second micro trend in the text completely dismantles that assumption, doesn't it?
It does. We are witnessing the fragmentation of the public square.
The fragmentation of the public square. I like that.
Yeah, the second pillar is social media, specifically this massive transition away from giant, noisy legacy networks towards smaller, highly specialized community platforms.
So we are basically moving from the era of the digital Miggy City to the era of the digital village.
That's a great way to put it.
Let's trace that out. Why is this happening now? Is it just algorithmic fatigue? Because I definitely feel that. When I open a legacy platform now, I don't see my friends anymore.
No, you see
I
brands.
see brands shouting at me. I see political arguments optimized for rage engagement. And I see wherever the algorithm decided will keep me scrolling for another 3 minutes. It is just exhausting
Algorithmic fatigue is a massive component, especially for digital natives like Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
because they grew up in it.
They grew up in these massive public squares, and they deeply recognize how toxic and performative they are. The legacy platforms operate on a broadcast model.
Where the goal is just to accumulate the largest possible audience and shout at them with a megaphone.
Right, but human beings aren't wired to maintain meaningful relationships in a stadium of 50 million people.
No, not at all.
We are wired for intimate, trust-based communities. So, users are retreating. They are packing up and leaving the crowded stadium to go find a quiet room where they can actually hear the people they're talking to.
Which explains the massive rise of platforms like Discord and Reddit over the last few years.
Discord is a perfect example. I mean, it started as just a voice chat app for video gamers, but it's evolved into the core infrastructure for niche communities.
Because you don't have a public feed on Discord where you broadcast your thoughts to the whole world.
Exactly. You join specific servers. So maybe a server for people learning Python programming, or a server for fans of some obscure indie band, or local plant enthusiasts in your city.
So the interaction is organized entirely around shared interests and values, not around algorithmic virality.
Yes. But the text actually goes even deeper than Discord. It brings up Mastodon.
Mastodon.
And this is where the technological architecture of social media is fundamentally changing. We really need to do a deep dive into Mastodon because it represents a structural rebellion against how social media has worked for the last 15 years.
Okay, let's do it. Because on the surface, if you just look at the user interface, Mastodon looks a lot like Twitter.
It does. It's a microblogging platform. You post short text updates, images, links. They just call them toots instead of tweets.
Right. But the underlying mechanics are completely revolutionary, according to the text. Mastodon isn't a centralized platform owned by a single corporation.
Right. There is no CEO pulling levers in a Silicon Valley boardroom to tweak the algorithm and maximize engagement across a billion users. Mastodon is decentralized and open source.
Okay, wait, you're skipping over the biggest hurdle for most people here. Decentralized is a buzzword that gets thrown around so much. What does that actually mean in practice?
That's a fair question.
If there is no central company running the servers, how does the app even exist?
To really understand it, you have to think about how email works. Yeah, email is a decentralized protocol. Think about it. If you use a Gmail account, you can easily send an email to your friend who uses a Yahoo account, or an Outlook account, or even some custom server they built in their basement.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Because we don't all have to be on the exact same platform to communicate with each other.
Exactly, because the underlying technology, the email protocol, allows different servers to talk to each other.
Right, I don't have to convince my boss to switch to Gmail just so I can send her a quarterly report.
Mastodon works exactly the same way. It uses a protocol called ActivityPub.
ActivityPub.
So instead of one massive server farm hosting everyone, Mastodon is broken up into thousands of independent individual servers. They call these instances.
Instances.
Anyone with a bit of technical knowledge can spin up their own instance and set their own rules. So there's an instance for journalists, an instance for digital artists, an instance for people who love vintage synthesizers.
And you just join one specific instance, and that becomes your home base.
Right.
But if I join the vintage synthesizer instance, am I locked in there? Like, can I only talk to other synthesizer geeks?
No, and that is the absolute magic of the Federation. They call it the Fediverse.
The Fediverse.
Because all these instances run on the ActivityPub protocol, they can communicate with each other. If you are on the synthesizer instance, you can follow and interact with someone who is on the digital artist instance.
So the servers talk to each other, just like a Gmail server talks to a Yahoo server.
Yes. But, and this is the really crucial part, each individual instance has its own administrator, its own moderation rules, and its own culture.
Oh, I see where this is going.
If one massive server starts getting overrun by spam bots or toxic behavior, the administrators of the other instances can simply sever the connection.
They just cut them off.
They can defederate from the bad actor, essentially cutting them entirely out of their specific community.
Okay, my marketer brain is flashing red right now.
I bet it is.
Because if the audience is fragmenting into thousands of tiny private instances, and every single server has its own admin acting as a bouncer, Isn't that a total nightmare for a marketer trying to achieve scale?
It absolutely is.
For the last decade, the playbook was literally write a check to Facebook, target women aged 25 to 34 who like yoga, and reach 10 million people instantly. How do I reach 10 million people if they're hiding in 1,000 different locked rooms?
The short answer is you don't.
You don't. Wow.
That is the hard truth of this community-based shift. The era of buying a massive billboard in the center of the digital town square is ending.
So the megaphone is broken.
Completely. If you try to take the broadcast playbook and apply it to a decentralized community, you will be destroyed. If a brand barges into a specialized Discord server or a niche Mastodon instance and just starts blasting promotional links, the community won't just ignore them.
The admin will instantly ban them.
Right, and the brand's reputation will be actively harmed.
So what is the new playbook then? For anyone listening who is trying to build a business, do you just abandon these platforms entirely and accept that you can't reach Gen Z?
No, you don't abandon them, but you have to fundamentally change your definition of scale. And you have to shift from a posture of broadcasting to a posture of participation.
Participation.
You achieve reach not through forced algorithmic injection, but through earned trust. You literally have to earn a seat at the table.
Okay, let's trace that out practically. How does a brand actually earn a seat in a closed Discord server without coming off as super creepy?
By providing genuine, exclusive utility.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you're a company that manufactures high-end mechanical keyboards. Instead of running banner ads, you create or sponsor a Discord server specifically for keyboard enthusiasts.
But you don't use it to post sales flyers.
Exactly. You use it to host AMA Ask Me Anything sessions with your lead product designer. You offer the community early access to prototype designs and ask for their feedback on the actuation force of the new switches.
Oh, that's smart.
You create custom emoji packs for them to use. You provide a space for them to troubleshoot technical issues with each other, and you have your actual engineers pop in occasionally to answer the really tough questions.
So you essentially become the host of the party, rather than the guy trying to sell encyclopedias at the front door.
Yes. And look, it is incredibly labor-intensive. It requires human beings managing the community, reading the mood, and adding real value.
It definitely doesn't scale as easily as just clicking a button on an ad manager.
No, it doesn't. But the payoff is that the quality of the engagement is exponentially higher. When you build trust in a specialized community like that, those users don't just become customers.
They become fierce advocates.
Exactly. They will defend your brand to outsiders. They will do your marketing for you. So the friction of the community platform is actually a feature, not a bug. It filters out all the noise and leaves you with pure, concentrated intent and loyalty.
That is fascinating. And that transition from broadcasting to intimate participation naturally pushes us into the third pillar.
E-commerce.
Right, because if social media is where we talk, e-commerce is how we transact.
Yeah.
And if we are demanding intimate, real-time community engagement in our social lives, it makes total sense that we are going to demand that exact same level of intimacy when we pull out our credit cards.
Exactly. The techs caused this shift to interactive and conversational commerce.
Which means the static e-commerce catalog is essentially dead.
It is a total relic. It's from the same era as the macro session desktop computer. Think about the traditional e-commerce experience.
It's incredibly lonely.
Lonely and high friction. You land on a page, you see a grid of static photos, you click on a product, you read a block of text, you try to decipher a sizing chart that honestly makes no sense.
And if you have a highly specific question like, are the seams on this jacket waterproof or just water resistant? There is literally no one there to answer it. You are entirely on your own.
Right, which leads to abandoned carts.
I actually have a personal anecdote about exactly this. A few months ago, I was trying to buy a custom replacement part for my bicycle suspension.
Oh, I'm sure that was complicated.
Very. It was a $300 part. I was on the manufacturer's website, and they had two different variations of the part, and the technical documentation was incredibly vague.
So you didn't want to risk a $300 mistake.
Exactly. My only option was this generic contact us web form. So I filled it out, and an automated email immediately bounced back saying, we will respond in 3 to 5 business days.
And what did you do?
I abandoned the cart. I just closed the laptop, went to a local bike shop 3 days later, and bought a competitor's product.
Because the mechanic at the shop could actually answer you.
Yes, because the mechanic standing right in front of me could look me in the eye and say, yes, this will fit your bike.
That right there is a $1 billion problem for digital retailers. The static website totally lacks the reassurance of the nodding sales associate.
So how does conversational commerce fix my bicycle problem?
It allows buyers to interact, ask questions, and transact directly within the messaging environments they already use. We're talking about WhatsApp, Meta's Messenger, or native chat functions within a brand's app.
And just to put in gravity behind this for anyone listening, the source text cites an e-marketer projection. They estimate that sales through these interactive and conversational models will reach $107 billion by 2025.
107 billion. This isn't some fringe experiment at all. It is a massive behavioral pivot.
So what does this actually look like in practice?
Well, to understand where this is going globally, we really have to look at Asian markets, specifically China with WeChat. They have been light years ahead on this.
How does it work on WeChat?
In WeChat, you don't leave the messaging app to go shopping. You text a brand, ask a question, receive a personalized video demonstrating the product, select your size, and transfer the money.
All inside the chat thread.
All inside the exact same chat thread where you were just talking to your mother 5 minutes ago.
Wow.
And that behavior is now rapidly standardizing globally through platforms like the WhatsApp Business API.
Okay, let's walk through the mechanics of that here. If I see a jacket on an Instagram ad, and instead of clicking a link to a website, I click a button that opens a WhatsApp chat, am I just texting an automated order form?
No, it is a synchronous dynamic conversation.
So I can actually ask about the fit.
Yeah, you might type, I love this jacket, but does it run small? I'm usually a medium, but I want to layer sweaters under it.
And then what happens?
Within seconds, the brand replies. It could be via a human agent, an AI, or a hybrid of both. And they say, it has a tailored fit. If you plan on layering heavy sweaters, we definitely recommend sizing up to a large. Would you like to see a photo of the interior lining?
And they just send the photo right there.
Right in the chat. You say, great, I'll take the large in navy. They send a payment link directly in the thread. You authenticate with your phone's biometrics, maybe Face ID, and the transaction is done.
It fundamentally changes the psychology of the purchase. It completely replicates the in-store experience. You don't have to guess. You just ask.
It drastically reduces the cognitive load on the consumer. The brand absorbs all the friction.
But there is a massive tightrope to walk here, isn't there?
The huge one.
Because, let me just stop you right there. The reality of this sounds incredibly messy. There is a massive boundary issue. WhatsApp or iMessage or whatever app you use, that is highly intimate digital real estate.
Yes, it's very personal.
That is where I text my partner. That is where I receive photos of my nieces and nephews. If a massive faceless corporation suddenly appears in that feed, doesn't that feel incredibly invasive?
It can.
Like, how do brands navigate that intimacy without being instantly blocked from being totally creepy?
The boundary has to be opt-in, and it must be fiercely protected by the brand.
Opt-in only.
A brand cannot, under any circumstances, initiate cold outreach in a private messaging app. If you buy a pair of shoes from a website and the next day they randomly WhatsApp you to say, hey, we are having a sale, you are going to block them immediately.
100%. It feels like a total violation.
The dynamic only works when the customer initiates the conversation themselves or explicitly opts in for a specific, tangible utility.
Okay, give me an example of that utility. Why would I ever willingly let a brand into my texts?
Post-purchase support is the ultimate Trojan horse for conversational commerce.
Post-purchase support. Okay.
Let's say you buy a high-end espresso machine. During checkout, there's a small checkbox that says, send my shipping updates and setup guide via WhatsApp.
I'd probably check that because I want to know when it arrives.
Exactly. When the machine is delivered, the brand sends a WhatsApp message. Your machine has arrived. Here is a 60-second video on how to prime the water pump. Reply Hell LP if you get stuck.
Okay, that is actually super helpful.
Right, now they have provided immense value. A week later, they might message you and say, hope you're enjoying the espresso. Just a heads up, the water filter needs to be replaced every 3 months. Want us to send you a link to subscribe to filters?
That is highly contextual, highly useful, and deeply integrated into the life cycle of the product.
And crucially, that doesn't feel creepy. It feels like luxury service.
The brand goes from being an obstacle in my inbox to basically an assistant in my pocket.
Exactly. But this brings us to an enormous operational brick wall.
Let me guess.
Scale.
Scale. We just described a highly personalized, real-time, nuanced conversation that happens exactly when the customer wants it, 24 hours a day. If you are a global brand, you might have 20,000 people initiating these conversations every single hour.
Yeah, you simply cannot hire 100,000 customer service reps to sit in a call center texting people back about espresso filters. The economics completely collapse.
And that leads us to the fourth trend, the invisible engine that prevents the entire system from collapsing under its own weight.
Language-based artificial intelligence.
Yes, the source text describes AI as having a dual role in metamarketing. It is the invisible back-end orchestrator, and it is the highly visible front-end communicator.
We have to dissect both of those. Let's
Yeah.
start with the front end because that is where the customer actually interacts.
Good place to start. And let's be brutally honest here. When most people hear AI customer service, they do not think of a luxury, seamless experience.
No, they think of torture.
They think of the chatbot loop from hell. We've all been trapped in it. You have a complex issue. You open the little chat bubble on a website, and the bot says, "How can I help you today?"
And you type out this long, detailed paragraph.
Right. You type a 3-sentence explanation of your highly specific problem, and the bot just replies, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Please type billing, shipping, or returns."
It is infuriating.
It feels like talking to a brick wall that actively hates you.
Well, what you are describing is a legacy chatbot, which honestly is not actually AI in the modern sense.
It's not.
No.
Yeah.
Those old bots were built on deterministic decision trees.
Deterministic decision trees. What does that mean?
It means a programmer literally sat down and mapped out a flowchart. If the user types word X, respond with phrase Y. If the user types a word that isn't on the flowchart, the bot breaks and hits an error state.
So it has zero actual comprehension of what I'm saying.
None. It's just matching keywords.
So how does this new wave of language-based AI cross the uncanny valley? How does it move from a rigid flowchart to something that actually feels conversational?
The shift is moving from deterministic logic to probabilistic models. We were talking about large language models, or LLMs. This is the technology underpinning systems like ChatGPT.
Okay, so how is an LLM fundamentally different?
They do not use flowcharts. They use massive vector databases and neural networks. When you type a sentence, the AI breaks your text down into tokens, maps the relationships between those tokens based on the billions of parameters it was trained on, and literally predicts the most statistically probable and contextually appropriate next word to generate a response.
Okay, simplify that for me. What does that actually mean for the customer who is just trying to find out if that jacket is waterproof?
It means the AI actually understands intent and context. Even if you misspell a word, use weird slang, or ask a complicated multi-part question.
So I don't have to talk like a robot for it to understand me.
Exactly. You can say to a modern LLM conversational agent, "Hey, I bought that blue jacket last week, but the zipper got totally stuck when I went skiing yesterday. Can I swap it for the red one?"
The legacy bot would definitely crash on that.
It would crash instantly because it sees blue, jacket, skiing, and red, and has no idea what the core issue is.
Right. But the LLM.
The LLM understands that you are an existing customer, making a warranty claim on a specific item, and requesting an exchange for a different color variant.
That is incredible.
It can instantly cross-reference your phone number with the CRM, pull up your order history, check the live inventory for the red jacket in your size, and reply, "I see your order for the blue jacket, and I'm so sorry about the zipper. We have the red one in size, medium in stock. I can email you a return label right now and ship the red one out today. Does that work for you?"
See, that is indistinguishable from a highly competent human agent. It stops being a roadblock and starts being an actual concierge.
It does, but the implementation of this is critical. Businesses get into massive trouble when they view AI solely as a cost-cutting measure and try to automate 100% of their interactions without safeguards.
What kind of trouble? Like the AI saying the wrong thing?
Yes, we call this the hallucination boundary. AI models, because they are probabilistic and essentially guessing the next word, can sometimes invent information. They hallucinate if they don't have the right guardrails.
Right. I've heard of this happening. A customer asks a question and the AI just makes up a completely fake policy.
And if your AI agent hallucinating a store policy promises a customer a 90% discount, the brand is legally on the hook for that.
So how do you put guardrails on it? How do you stop the AI from just making things up?
Through an architecture called RAG. That stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Retrieval Augmented Generation. Okay, break that down.
Basically, instead of letting the AI just guess the answer based on its broad internet training, you tether it to a private, closed database of your company's actual data.
Ah, so it can only pull from your official documents.
Exactly. When the customer asks about the return policy, the AI first retrieves the exact policy document from your private database and then uses its language generation capabilities to summarize that specific document in a natural conversational tone.
That anchors the AI's intelligence to your factual reality.
Yes. It drastically reduces hallucinations.
Okay, so that is the front end, the conversational agent actually talking to the user. But earlier, you mentioned AI is also the invisible backend orchestrator. What is it doing behind the curtain?
The backend AI is essentially the ultimate analyst and matchmaker.
Matchmaker.
Think back to our first trend, the micro moments, the short form videos on TikTok or Instagram. How does Target know that you are the exact person who needs to see a 12-second video of dorm room organization at exactly 4:15 p.m. on a Tuesday?
Humanly, you couldn't process that.
Yeah.
Humans cannot process that level of targeting data.
Exactly. Back-end AI models analyze millions of microsignals in real time. They look at your scroll velocity, the specific types of posts you pause on for half a second, your geographic location, the time of day, your previous purchase history.
So it's constantly calculating.
It calculates the statistical probability of your intent and serves you the exact piece of content that is most likely to trigger a transaction in that specific micro moment.
So it's not just a conversational tool at all. It is literally the plumbing of the entire new internet ecosystem.
It really is. It curates the content, it matches the audience, it facilitates the conversation, and it scales the personalization.
AI is the software layer that makes metamarketing possible.
Precisely. But software is ultimately invisible. Software needs a vessel.
A vessel, you mean hardware.
Right. It needs a physical interface to actually interact with the human body. And for the last 15 years, that interface has been a glowing rectangle of glass that we just hold in our hand.
Which perfectly transitions us to the fifth and final microtrend, the hardware revolution.
The shift toward immersive wearable devices.
Right. This is where we move from looking at the internet to actually stepping into it.
The text talks about consumer electronics evolving beyond the smartphone screen to create a sense of being entirely surrounded by digital content. We have basically hit the ergonomic and psychological limits of the smartphone.
Let's talk about the physical posture again.
Yeah.
You mentioned the posture of the desktop PC era, sitting at a desk, tethered to a wall.
Yeah.
The posture of the smartphone era is the hunch. You are walking down the street, your neck is bent at a 45-degree angle, your peripheral vision is completely cut off, and your entire conscious reality is funneled into a 6-inch rectangle in your palm.
It is an incredibly unnatural physical state.
And deeply isolating.
The smartphone forces you to constantly choose between the physical world and the digital world. You literally cannot look at a map on your phone and look at the actual street in front of you at the exact same time.
Right. Your brain is constantly context switching back and forth.
Which is exhausting. The whole premise of immersive wearables is to completely eliminate that context switch. They offer a heads-up, hands-free experience.
Now, the source text walks through specific examples of this immersive technology, and I think we need to carefully separate them because the terminology gets thrown around and confused a lot.
It does. We are talking about virtual reality and augmented reality, which are two vastly different paradigms.
Let's start with VR, virtual reality.
So the hardware here is the opaque headset. Think of the MetaQuest or the Apple Vision Pro when you dial it all the way in. When you put a VR headset on, your physical surroundings completely disappear.
Right, you are cut off.
The hardware uses screens placed inches from your eyes to completely hijack your visual cortex. You are transported to a fully simulated environment. You could be sitting in your messy living room, but visually and orally, you are sitting in the front row of a virtual concert or standing in a virtual car dealership looking at a 3D model of a new SUV.
It is total isolation. The analogy I always use is that VR is like going to a movie theater. The lights go down, the doors close, and you shut the outside world out entirely to just focus on the screen.
That's a really good way to think about it.
And it is incredibly powerful for specific, dedicated tasks, like, I don't know, training a surgeon or playing a really immersive video game. But you aren't going to wear a VR headset while you walk down the street to get a coffee.
No, you would walk into traffic. Which is exactly why augmented reality AR is the much more profound shift for daily consumer behavior.
And really the true foundation of metamarketing.
AR does not replace your physical reality, it overlays digital information onto it. The classic kind of primitive example the book mentions is finding a Pokemon in Pokemon Go.
Right, where you look through your device's camera and you see the digital creature standing on your actual physical sidewalk.
Yes.
Following the movie theater analogy, AR is like having the movie special effects happening right in your own living room, interacting with your own furniture, while you can still see your actual dog sitting on the couch.
That is exactly it. But to understand why this is the future, we really have to move past the novelty of catching digital monsters on a phone screen. We have to talk about spatial computing and wearable hardware.
Because the goal of AR is to take it out of your hands entirely and put it onto your face, right?
Yep.
Through smart glasses or eventually contact lenses. Let's do a bit of a technical dive here.
Wow.
Why don't we all have AR glasses right now? We have been promised them for a decade. Like Google Glass came out years ago and it completely failed. What is the friction preventing mass adoption?
The friction is essentially physics, thermodynamics, and sociology.
Okay, let's start with physics.
To make true optical AR glasses, glasses that look like normal Ray-Bans but can project high-definition 3D holograms into your field of view, you need an astonishing amount of computing power.
Because it has to constantly map the room, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need multiple cameras pointing out to map the room in real time using a technology called SLAM. That's simultaneous localization and mapping. The glasses have to understand that the coffee table in front of you is solid. So if a digital ball bounces off it, the physics make sense. Plus, you need eye-tracking cameras pointing inward. You need tiny projectors bouncing light through complex optical waveguides etched right into the lenses.
And doing all of that requires a massive processor.
A massive processor, which draws a massive amount of power from a battery, which in turn generates a massive amount of heat.
Ah. And you cannot put a hot, heavy battery on the bridge of someone's nose.
You really can't. So the technological hurdle right now is miniaturization, battery density, and offloading the compute.
Offloading it to where?
The near future involves the glasses acting simply as the display. The actual heavy processing is beamed wirelessly from your smartphone in your pocket, or eventually straight from the cloud via ultra-fast 5G or 6G networks.
Okay, so the physics are hard, but they're clearly solvable. Now, you mentioned sociology as the other friction point.
Yes.
Google Glass failed, largely because people thought it was incredibly creepy to walk around with a camera pointing at everyone. People called them glass holes.
They did. But the sociological acceptance is actually happening much faster now. Look at devices like Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses.
Right, those are getting super popular.
They don't have holographic displays yet. They are primarily audio and camera devices, but they look exactly like classic Wayfarer sunglasses. The sociological friction is largely removed because the form factor is already socially acceptable.
And that actually brings up a really important point that the text highlights. Immersion isn't just visual.
No, not at all.
The hardware revolution heavily includes audio. Audio AR is arguably already here, and we barely even noticed it happening.
It is absolutely here. Think about 3D audio earbuds, like Apple's AirPods with spatial audio. Most people just think of them as high-quality headphones, but they are actually sophisticated spatial computing devices.
Because they track your head movements.
Yes, they have accelerometers and gyroscopes inside them that track the micro movements of your head in real time.
So how does that actually change the marketing experience? Paint a picture for me.
Let me give you a thought experiment. Imagine you are walking down a street in a busy city. You are wearing your smart glasses and your spatial audio earbuds.
Okay, I'm with you.
You aren't looking down at a phone, your head is up. Your glasses are quietly mapping the storefronts around you. You walk past a boutique coffee shop that you buy beans from occasionally online.
So they know me?
Your back-end AI recognizes your exact location and your purchase history. Without you even breaking stride, the coffee shop initiates a micro-moment.
Wait, do they flash a giant neon digital billboard in my eye? Because that sounds awful.
No, that is the old broadcast mentality. The metamarketing mentality is subtle and highly contextual. Because you are wearing spatial earbuds, the AI can project sound into a specific point in 3D space.
What does that mean?
As you walk past the door, you hear a soft, localized chime that seems to be coming directly from the physical doorway of the shop, not just playing generically inside your head. It anchors your attention to the physical space.
Oh, wow.
And then a friendly, conversational AI voice whispers in your ear, "Hey, we just roasted a fresh batch of that Ethiopian blend you bought last month. Want me to order a bag for you to grab right now?"
Hey, I don't even have to pull out my phone. I literally just speak back to the air. Yeah, grab me a bag, charge my account.
Exactly. You walk in, the barista hands you the bag because the transaction was already processed via conversational commerce, and you walk out.
That is seamless.
The discovery, the targeted content, the transaction, the AI facilitation, and the physical hardware interface, All of it collapsed into a single, frictionless 5-second interaction that occurred seamlessly within your physical environment.
That is the holy grail right there. That is metamarketing.
It really is.
If we step back and look at the massive picture here, it is frankly staggering. We've taken these 5 micro trends, and when you lock them all together, they form an entirely new ecosystem.
Right, they are not isolated upgrades, they are a sequence.
Walk us through that sequence one more time.
Short-form video captures our attention during impulsive micro-moments. Niche, decentralized community platforms are where we build deep trust and planned advocacy. Conversational e-commerce allows us to transact in real time within those intimate channels.
And then AI is running the show.
Language-based AI scales the personalization of those interactions so the system doesn't break. And finally, immersive wearable hardware projects all of this invisible data directly into our physical field of view.
The soul of this chapter, the core thesis we really have to walk away with, is that the internet is escaping the screen.
Escaping the screen, yes.
We are moving from a world where we log on to a destination to a world where we simply inhabit a digital layer. The customer of the near future will not distinguish between an online interaction and an offline interaction.
It will all just be one continuous blended reality.
So for anyone listening who builds products or sells services or designs experiences, the mandate is incredibly clear. You can no longer build a digital strategy in a vacuum.
Your digital content must have physical context.
And your physical spaces must have digital utility. The brands that survive the next decade will be the ones that enhance the reality in front of the consumer, rather than trying to force the consumer to look down at a screen and ignore it.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the edge of an incredibly daunting, but really exciting question. If the digital world is leaping off the screen and bleeding into our physical reality, how do we actually redesign our physical spaces?
That's the real challenge.
I'm talking about our retail stores, our live events, our corporate offices.
Yeah.
How do you design a physical building to act as a stage for a digital overlay?
It requires a complete reimagining of architecture and physical customer service.
And that is exactly the frontier we will be exploring in our next deep dive. But for today, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on.
Let's hear it.
As you go through your day, look around. Look at the rigid screens you are staring at, the fragmented communities you are messaging in, the quiet algorithms predicting your next click.
It's all around us.
As these 5 trends merge, and as the hardware gets lighter, faster, and eventually invisible, as the physical and digital worlds become completely indistinguishable, how will you even know when an experience is organically real and when you are simply walking inside a perfectly crafted immersive marketing campaign?
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.